Councillor Vaughan. Councillor Walker, order.
I guess the question is, I guess, to the city manager, just in terms of when the TTC surrenders this land to the city to be sold in the open market, or when if the TTC takes the land to market, does anything we're doing here tonight change that piece of property?
Through you, Madam Speaker, this is one of the properties that we are looking at that would be declared.
Sorry, guys.
This is one of the properties that we're looking at that would be declared surplus by TTC and by the city, and it would come back to council as a potential transfer or turnover related to Build Toronto. And so you would see it again in terms of making decisions, in terms of whether or not it'll actually be sold to Build Toronto, etc.
Could the TTC sell this land tomorrow if it wanted to?
You still have to go through this process of declaring it surplus.
And at that time when we decide of a method of disposal of this property and to feed it into the system, at that time, whenever it happens, we can give instructions to, there's nothing to stop us from giving instructions to Build Toronto to only sell it within a certain strata.
That's correct.
And that can be done confidentially as well as publicly. Is that true, or how's that done?
Publicly, I guess.
Okay. And then the second thing is that if we roll a strata plan in today to this zoning bylaw, what's to stop a future council from stripping it away?
It would have to be considered on its merits at that time, recognizing that there are height limits in the zoning bylaw, and there is this wording that talks about that a strata plan may be used. But again, because we don't know how these lands are going to be dealt with, we don't know if it's a sale, a long-term lease, in our view, it's premature.
But a future council could pull it off the table with a simple majority vote. This council would require 2/3, but a future council majority vote?
A future council could change its mind as to how it would deal with it, but then, you know, you've still got the zoning bylaw that would need to be amended.
Right, and that could be appealable to the OMB, which then it really becomes a question of what do you trust more, the OMB or the city council to do what's right by the neighborhood?
Yes, that's exactly.
And the proposal in front of us from Councillor Walker suggests that the OMB would be a better layer of protection than, in fact, the city council.
Well, with the proposal with the word shall, if city council decides on something a little different, and again, I can't predict what that is, it's impossible to say right now, but if council wants to do something a little bit different, there may be something new, different, then you would require an official plan amendment to deal with the word shall, and that would be subject to appeal.
By both parties. In fact, someone who bought the property could also appeal it to the OMB to have that condition stripped away.
Yes.
So council could support the strata sale. Build Toronto could support the strata sale. A future council could support the strata sale, but the person who purchased the property could actually appeal to have the strata sale revoked.
Only in the planning documents. That's what you have to keep the planning process separate from the sale of the land process. If council makes a decision that it only wants to sell up to a certain height, and that's clearly that this is what is for sale up to this height, then that's all the purchaser has, and that's not appealable.
But what I'm driving at is if you got that pulled out of the zoning bylaw, if the person who purchased the property in the future went to the OMB despite council's protest and won at the OMB and stripped the strata sale from the zoning bylaw, it would still require that person to come back and purchase the strata from the city, from city council, because we had still effectively have owned that piece of air, right?
Well, and that's, yes, I think I understand this. You can have in a zoning bylaw that your height is whatever, however many meters. Let's say it's 100 meters, just to use a round number. But if the city owns the lands, controls the land, then the city can say, we're only selling 100 meters of airspace to be built on. And that's the limit of the height, and that is not appealable, because that's all That's all the interest that's being conveyed.
But the will of council, the time of transaction is what will matter in this, not what we do here today. That's the point I'm trying to drive at, that all of this is collapsible.
Is there a question there?
If the council, if the council of the day decides to relinquish the strata.
Yes.
And if
Okay, I'm sorry, your time's over.